Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm your host Clayton at Clayton's AFC on Twitter. A big away win at Forest City ground, winning 2-1 away from home. Obviously on the back of winless in 3 away games in the Premier League. So really needed that. It's obviously on the back of a wider stretch where we were winless. Sorry, no, 3 defeats in a row before Palace. So 2 wins on the trot now, 5-0 against Palace, 2-1 away at Forest. And this was a weird game, really weird game. Obviously, delighted with the 3 points, and I think it's a tricky place to go for us. Obviously, we've had not won there in 3 visits. So you could say I'm not really one of these people that believes in like bogey teams and this and that, but if I were, I think you could say that about Forest. But yeah, anyway, we went there, we got the job done, right? But I think there's a lot of wider things that will be spoken about on the back of this. And in the Palace review pod, I said, like, for me, I know there are a lot of questions about like the performance and aesthetically, are we clicking kind of going forwards? And after the Palace game, I said, look, I don't care. Like 5-0, for me, that game was more about coming back after a little reset, just get the basics right, put them away, like Palace, like dispatch of them. And yeah, and then I said, okay, let's see how we do going forward at Forest. And what I would say is I wasn't concerned by our performance, but I'm more concerned about our ability to actually create high quality chances against these deep blocks. And I want to just state this up front, right? Because I know there'll be people like, oh, you won, like kind of like what I was like after Palace, to be honest. But people will be like, you won, move on, be happy. And I am happy, obviously. That's a big win. Kind of puts the pressure back on Liverpool against Chelsea now. City as well. Obviously, they'll beat Burnley, but Liverpool, Chelsea, you never know. Um, so I am happy, but I think I would be lying if I said I don't have concerns. And my concerns come around this team's ability to actually create chances against deep blocks. And I think game state is something that really determines how this team plays and how likely we are to score a goal. Because you could see it in this game. Like once we got the first goal, to be honest, it was before the first goal. I think so. In terms of context of the game, let me just start from the start, and then I'll go into lineups and all of that. It was basically the first half. It just felt like it was a training exercise where it was 11 men behind the ball, and we're just trying and failing to unpick them, right? And it just felt like a lot of the time we were going side to side. There wasn't really any incisive passing, and it's not a criticism of the players because genuinely I was looking around, I was like, there's no space. Like Forest's deep block was actually very good, and it wasn't like we were getting in certain areas. And I think sometimes we were perhaps, if I'm being super critical, taking one extra touch or pass, but it's so hard when you're playing at the pace and tempo mentally that they're playing at against an opposition that is just a brick wall. It's so difficult. But my concern was around in that first half, I didn't actually feel like we were going to create any high quality chances of substance, to be honest. Um, and that, yeah, like I say, that was more my concern. I don't know what the solution is to that, to be honest. Like I tweeted during the game. One of the solutions we obviously looked at this season, which we started with, was playing with one less defender in Gabriel, um, and obviously a Timber would have played instead of a Zinchenko, and instead of a Gabriel, we had like a Thomas Partey, or you never know, we could have had another attacker on the field. And so it does look like the anticipated solution to this problem, which did start last season with deep blocks, was one less defender on the pitch, adjust the back line so you've got someone that can cover both full back, centre back, and midfield areas, and have one extra body in midfield. But it looks like without that, we're kind of short of ideas. And in terms of selection, I really liked Smith Rowe in there. In the preview pod I did today, I actually said I could see Trossard playing instead of Martinelli, and it was because I anticipated this kind of deep block. And I think, as it showed in the game, this game wasn't a game that suited a Martinelli, in my opinion, because it wasn't a transition game. But that's when I saw this selection of Smith Rowe. I was like, okay, I like that because he's a pocket player. What I thought Trossard would give us on the wing, Smith Rowe's profile, in theory, uh, is what we would need in central areas. Not sure if it quite came to fruition, but yeah, that was my kind of theory on the game. And yeah, it really feels like this is something that we need to sort out. And again, it's tricky because, like I said, I don't think we were doing anything wrong per se. I know people say like, "Oh, we're playing too slow" and this and that, but I don't think they're choosing to do that. I think it's just when teams are parked up against you, you can't just zip it around because there's no space. But ironically, I'm gonna what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna be a hypocrite here with what I'm about to say. One of the things I'd like to see as a solution is that kind of element of chaos. I think that's what Liverpool do, right? They take, if something isn't definitively on, they'll still chance it, and I think they just force things through sheer volume and like they overwhelm you. And I think that in itself is a method to goal. Like not every I know a lot of people say Arsenal tried to score the perfect goal. Like I don't think that's what we're trying to do, but I can see why people actually think that. Whereas Liverpool will just barricade their way through you. And I think that's something we need to see more of against this deep block issue, because I think we're playing, like we joke about Field Tilt FC, right? But Field Tilt FC, we're literally camped in their final third. So, and even in terms of counter pressing, our system and players are set up so smartly that if and when teams get the ball and try to play out, 8, 9 times out of 10, we win it back straight away. Like, how many times did you see in the first half Forest got the ball and they were able to actually escape and attack us? Not often. So with that in mind, I'd like to see us take more risks in the final third. Like I can't remember if it was in the first half, but there was a little period where the ball was out on the left. Zinchenko got the ball just outside it may have been just outside or inside the box. He put his foot on it and he just smacked it in. It was like a half-assed cross, but like drilled in nice and low, and it ricocheted around. And Saka took a shot, and it just went wide for a corner. That chance came from chaos, and that's what I'd like to see us try and do more, because I think that is inevitably a way that you can try and kind of get an advantage over these teams. I think we are going to struggle to create high quality chances against deep blocks through incisive passing. It's unless you have got one less defender back there and one more midfielder or attacker up there to create overloads. I don't see how it's possible when it's just kind of 1v1 all over. And like, I don't think the movement was of any fault. I think people were moving around trying to interchange. You can see people drifting into pockets, but again, Forest blocked the passing lanes really nicely. So my only solution that I can think of is one, which we can't do right now, is Jurien Timber was obviously signed as a player to unlock a system that could facilitate unlocking deep blocks because of the ability to play one more person further up the field. And the second is just chaos, like I say. And I know that sounds quite simplistic, but I cite the Saka chance as an example. That came from a risky ball in from Zinchenko. And I know people will say, oh, but then what if we lose the ball? That's what my point is. Like, we're so well set up systematically that even if nothing came from that, I don't think Forest would go from their box to ours very quickly, or with much success, because of how well we're set up to counter press. So that's something I'd like to see more of. But anyway, that's something I just wanted to speak about a little bit. In terms of the actual performance, like I said, it was a weird game. It was split into chunks, right? I think the first 45 minutes was kind of one game in itself, where it was literally 11 of our players against 11 of theirs behind the ball for, I'd say, 43 of the 45 minutes. And we were, in my opinion, never really coming close to actually getting a goal. I'm going to need to get my timeline correct here, because obviously the game's finished and I've just gone um, straight into doing this. So I can't recall the timeline, but I remember there were a couple of chances that we had. One was obviously really nice. No, this was in the second half, I think, when I was about to say when we nicely worked it through. Jesus was 1v1 and he hit the post. But anyway, without me going into specific chances, let me just talk about like the game from a higher level. Yeah, first half, just thought it was a very good defensively drilled Forest side, and we struggled to break them down. As simple as that. We then came out second half, and it looked like it was going to be a repeat of the same, but then something tweaked. I don't know what happened, but it's almost like the Forest crowd were kind of trying to encourage them to actually play. And you could see it the minute there was like a little bit more of gaps, we started to find spaces, we started to ping the ball a bit faster. And this is why I don't buy into this narrative of Arsenal are choosing to play this way. I think the minute there's space, you see Arsenal just go from 0 to 100 and we kill teams. And obviously we went 1-0 up, right? And I'm well aware I've skipped chunks of this in terms of the timeline, but we went 1-0 up. Jesus scored in the 65th minute. And that goal came from a really smart throw in from Zinchenko. Spotted an opportunity straight into Jesus. He weaved his way through, and I'll let people decide if it's a lucky goal or a smart finish. I think it's a little bit of both. I think he's aimed for the only part of the goal he can, but I also think Turner should be saving that. But anyway, like we go 1-0 up, and then you see in that period after, just before the second goal, the space, right? Like we're toying with them, we're knocking it around nicely, playing good football, and this is why I really think game state determines what you see from this Arsenal team. Because I think if we go 1-0 up in most games, we're playing some liquid football. And you've seen it in periods in the Champions League, right? Teams come out and play us, they leave space, we fucking kill them. And we play like aesthetically good football as well. So I just think, again, it comes back to what's the solution? Like, I would like to see us maybe start a bit more risky in games, maybe try and go and get that first goal rather than kind of that snake hold that we tried to get and suffocate teams and eventually get the first goal. Because it would be nice to go into the final third of a game a little bit more comfortable than like that kind of tense feeling where we're still having to break them down. Because long term in the season, you exert less energy from that, right? We always talk about this whole Arsenal are saving themselves for the second half of the season, but I don't necessarily agree if it's going to be a constant battle versus deep blocks where we're having to score in the second half. I think that will only happen if we actually get an early goal and then control the game. But anyway, I digress. We go 1-0 up. I haven't even spoke about Smith Rowe coming in back into the team. I'll talk about that in a sec. But Smith Rowe went off for Havertz in the 71st minute, and immediately after that, ball gets cleared. I think it was to Havertz actually, and he headers it up. Then someone smacks it straight to Odegaard. Odegaard sets Jesus. Yeah, Odegaard sets Jesus off on the left, and you see the Arsenal players bombing forward. I think it was Havertz, Odegaard, Saka, obviously, Jesus, Martinelli. I want to say was in and around that as well. And it's like, yeah, swarm of yellow flying forward. Jesus picks out a really nice pass to Saka, and bang, quality finish, 2-0. And again, it was a period of, in 7 minutes, bang, 2 goals done, game over. And again, before that first goal, you could see there was space for Arsenal, and we were about to go, and we were doing better. I feel like we were getting into pockets. Again, my mind's gone blank on specific moments, but I remember that that Saka chance in the first half where Zinchenko smacked it in from the left. Jesus is one that hit the post, like I said already. Feel like Saka had another chance somewhere, but yeah, it was more to illustrate the point. I feel like once the game opens up, this Arsenal team is capable of beating anyone and in style. I just think there's a slight concern for me in terms of our ability to get a goal when we want against these deep blocks. It feels like that is. I feel like this Arsenal team can beat many, many sides in different game states, but the one that I'm still not convinced about is against deep blocks. It feels like we have to work really hard to get that goal. So I would love to see us try and actually get, not that we're not trying, but I would love to see evidence of us getting that earlier on and then seeing the game state accordingly, because I'm so convinced against these teams that park up against us, if we score 1 or 2 in the first half, an hour and first half, you're talking about a piece of piss, like an absolute walk in the park, because we're very good at managing games accordingly when we're winning. So we go 2-0 up, and then we're able to kind of flex the squad a bit. Jesus and Martinelli went off for Trossard and Nketiah. And then 89th minute, of course, someone like me who's both an Arsenal fan and got 3 Arsenal defenders in fantasy football, looking there thinking, yeah, we got a clean sheet, got my 3 6-pointers in FPL. Taiwo Awoniyi gets a goal. It feels harsh to say Saliba. I don't think Saliba was poor there. I feel like a lot of people will say that. I think that's just a unfortunate kind of just being outmuscled. You could argue maybe his positioning should have been a couple of yards to his left. So when if he does lose that duel, he's in a better position to recover. But I think that's such fine margins, and in the tempo of the game, that is really nitpicking, in my opinion. I just think give credit where it's due. It was a strong bit of centre forward play from Awoniyi and a nicely taken goal. And then it was slightly squeaky bum time. I'll be honest, I never actually thought we were going to go and concede a second though. And then we made 2 subs while from a corner. It was Odegaard and Zinchenko going off for Jorginho and Kivior, and they didn't really have any time to make a difference. But all in all, job done. How I would summarize it is first half raised an actual concern for me, as I've said multiple times in this episode. I've got an actual concern about our ability to break down deep blocks. But I think on the flip side of that, if we're able to break down deep blocks early in games, I think you see a completely different football match and Arsenal football team. So that's something I think is in our best interest. If we can figure that out, I think we're absolutely fine. But until I see it, it's a concern for me. But to summarize, it was I'm using the FOTMob app here. 74% possession, 1.23 expected goals, and this is my thing. 19 shots, but only 3 on target, and even the XG like 1.23. I would like. Again, it's not. I don't think we played badly. I just think we need to find different ways of creating higher volume of chances. Like, this is it, right? We can't complain about it. Well, we can complain about it, but it is what it is. Teams are just going to set up to play in this way against us because it looks like that's their best chance of getting absolutely anything against us because of how good we are. Anyone comes to play us, we'll fucking kill them. Other than like the obvious Cities, Liverpools, that will be a fairer contest. But any other team in this league comes to play us, we'll fucking annihilate them. So unfortunately, this is what we're up against, and that's what we're going to have to try and sort. In terms of wider lineup stuff, I was surprised. I didn't see many people predict Smith Rowe. I'm in a Arsenal predictors group chat on Twitter where I think there's 18 of us or so that tries to predict the Arsenal 11 each week, and one person actually had Smith Rowe in there, so fair play. I don't know if he had any inside info or anything, but fair play. That's a great shout. Other than that, it was all as expected. Like I said, I thought Trossard would play at left wing instead of Martinelli, but Martinelli got the nod. And I think there's something in that, like Martinelli at left 8, Martinelli left wing, Smith Rowe left 8. I think if Trossard's left wing, you can see Havertz left 8. But how do I think Smith? I'm not going to go player by player because I want to try to keep this nice and short. Because, like I said earlier today, I'm a granddad. I get very tired very early in the evening. I thought Smith Rowe was okay, but it was the sort of game where I don't think any of our players were like any better than okay. Given the nature of the challenge that was in front of us, I think it was a really hard game for any individual to really make their case in and like really stand out. Obviously, Jesus does, but I think it's the sort of game anyone who scored would be getting the man of the match. I think that's how kind of fine the balance was in terms of standout performance. But I think Smith Rowe, it was encouraging to see some of his kind of intensity off the ball. Like, he was pretty good at trying to win the ball back in certain areas. I remember he, like, really hunting it down. Good movement off the ball into tight spaces. I liked his bravery in some moments on the edge of the box. He actually took a shot when I think some people would have opted for 1 or 2 more passes. So encouraging. I think it's like he's not going to be back to what we know he can be in one game, right? I think it's just encouraging to see him trusted to start, and he got substantial minutes. And then like Liverpool's next, who knows? And then I can't remember what the fixtures are after that, but it's encouraging, right? I think that's the biggest thing. So it's Liverpool next, then West Ham away, Burnley, Porto, Newcastle. If he stays fit, he'll get substantial minutes now. And we need to be able to rotate and flex the squad in different game states. So really encouraging. It's just good to see him trusted and out there. I think it's best for everyone, kind of like not manage expectations, right? Like he's not going to be that world beater that we saw 2 years ago. It's going to take him a while to get there, and I think this Arsenal team is so good that this is the best environment for him to try and find himself. Like we don't need to rely on him to drag us like him and Saka did a couple of years ago. So it's nice that we've got this like really good team, really nice environment where he can find himself, get his confidence back, and that environment. But I think you'll be relied on quite a lot though. If the problem this Arsenal team faces is deep blocks, because his profile feels like he suits that. He brings chaos, unpredictability in his dribbling and movement, and he's not afraid of taking a shot, which is what we need. So yeah, uh, all in all, I think that's that. Nice 21-minute review of the game. Yeah, job done. We are going to need to look at this issue of how we create high quality chances against deep blocks, but we're finding ways to win. And that's, you know what the cliche is, right? If it's not Arsenal, people say that's what champions do. Um, I'm not really a cliche guy, but yeah, it's something that we need to look at. But all in all, I thought we did as best as we could in the first half with what we were up against. As soon as the game opened up a little bit, I thought we clicked into gear. We looked on it. The passing was slick and the tempo was good. The positional play was really good. Got the 2-0 lead, and then unfortunately they scored a goal from a strong centre forward out of nothing. Shit happens. Not too much to be critical of for me. I thought it was a very, very professional performance, and in periods, some lovely, lovely football. It's just that thing against deep blocks. Can we get an early goal? Because I think that changes the whole course of a game for this football club, with the profiles of players we've got. So yeah, all in all, lovely stuff. 2-1 win away from home at a ground we've struggled in recently, and also in the league away from home we've struggled with in the last 3 games. So yeah, we've done our job. Over to Liverpool, over to City. I'll be back on Friday with Nima. We'll be doing our preview for the big game against Liverpool, hosting them on Sunday at the Emirates. So we'll be live on Friday afternoon to preview that game. And then yeah, we'll obviously we'll preview that, hopefully win, and do a review next week. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. If you are watching this live, please drop the stream a like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're listening back on the podcast, I would love you to drop a review and share this with your mates and stuff if you enjoy it. It really does help us out. But yeah, I will say goodbye there. Lovely stuff. 2-1 win on the road. At the Forest. I don't know why that ground confuses me so much when I say Forest's City ground. But yeah, for anyone that is listening to this on the way back from the ground, safe travels. Hopefully see some of you on Sunday. Up the Arsenal.